Says,
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
All right.
So this is happening finally.
Yeah, sorry. I wish I had like a real excuse, but I just like can't commit to doing anything right now. It's been like that for a while. So finally, yesterday, I was like, I was like, all right, I can do it. Because I just felt like such a son of a bitch at that point.
That's all right. That's all right. I know that like people have stuff and life and stuff happens and whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do, but I also like sometimes it's just like a terribly anxiety inducing just thinking about like having to talk to anybody about anything. So,
Have you
but
been like going out, interacting, or just staying on your own?
what's that now?
Have you been going out and interacting, or just being like by yourself mostly?
We are mostly alone. I mean, so living in central Pennsylvania, and it's kind of boring. Uh, but there's plenty of nature around. So I don't know. So my partner will go on walks, and we go to the store when we need to. Um, I have kids, so I'll see my kids here and there. But mostly we're just kind of hiding out. We've had to go like up north to record a couple times this year. Um, so we're trying to minimize our contact with people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And during this time of like semi-isolation, at least, have you learned any new skills?
No, no. I wish that I had, learned how to do something that I've always wanted to do, but no, I haven't. It's a weird time. It doesn't feel like there's all this downtime to discover something useful. It's sort of like dark reflection or something, or just trying to get through some of the days is just like because just having the year sort of erased, especially as like a musician or artist or whatever, had like the stuff I was supposed to do and shows was playing and all kinds of stuff. It's just gone. So there's a lot of just like fear that's coming along with uncertainty. It's not just like when are things going to start again, or it's sort of are things ever going to be the way they were? And as a performer, that's like very scary.
In terms of like income and like how much you were supposed to make as an artist that lives from this, what has this year been like?
Um, I mean, lost income. I mean, it's like everything I should have made this year. So it's kind of money saved is what we're living on. I just put out a book. My friend Jeremy Baum at Secret Voice just did released a poetry collection that is a collaboration I did with my friend Dan Dara. So that's something. And but it seems like a lot of people are just trying to like do the band camp days and trying to figure out how to make it work because there without touring and all that there's no way to bring any money in properly. I mean, certainly my royalties are the checks are tiny.
Mhm.
So there's a trying to figure out where to squeeze money from is not easy, and I'm not savvy in that area. I don't know. I'm not good with money. I'm not comfortable with money. I don't like discussing it or thinking about it or even like trying to keep track of it. So it's all around a terrible experience for me.
I follow Jeff Barrow from Portishead on
Hmm.
Twitter, and he complains daily about Spotify. And he's on a major tirade, and like he gives like very visible, easy to understand examples. Like, okay, this artist made in like December enough money to buy a bread roll or something from Spotify.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, it's frustrating, but I mean, you're just Jeff Barrow. It's like, I don't know, man. What are you worried about? You're in Portishead. He does all kinds of stuff, production and shit. So I don't know. I'm okay with Spotify. I know a lot of people hate it, but it's as like a independent artist or whatever. It's like we just need people to listen to us, pay attention to us, find us. The goal is for people to come see us when we play. And so I think right now there's a lot of anger at Spotify because there's no other income for a lot of us. Um, but you know, in 2019, I would be Spotify was great. So you know, and again, it's like, you know, I grew up in the 80s and we were like making mixtapes for each other, and then into like the 90s and we were burning CDs for people. So I don't mind, as long as people find who we are and hear the music I'm making and that we do as a band and everything. It's like that's the goal. You know, there's what iTunes. I think I don't have iTunes. I don't use iTunes, but like, you buy the song and then you have it in the rotation. I think if things like Bandcamp and were a little more user friendly and were operated functionally similar to Spotify, then people would probably be a little more interested in like discovering music and paying for a song a reasonable price. But again, I mean, I use Spotify like every day. I'm happy to use it. I wish that we made more money from it, but I mean, then I'd be paying like that, you know, $500 a year for the subscription, and that's just kind of unrealistic the way it operates now. I mean, we're lucky people pay anything to anybody for music right now.
I'm sure that you grew up in a time, as did I, where access to music, there was a paywall behind it. So if you want to hear the new, I don't know, New Young puts out a new like remaster or whatever, and you want to hear it, you got to go and buy the special edition or whatever. And now access to music is like everywhere all the time. And I don't know if that's so good or so bad, but like if you mention someone on Instagram, like you say, oh, this is like this Bambara record is awesome, I go and listen to it instantly. That's never happened before in the history of mankind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. It's probably a mix of both, whether it's 50-50 or 60-40, I couldn't tell you. But if people are, like I said, you know, we haven't had to experience like a total shutdown of touring. So maybe it's just like putting a lot of things into perspective right now, way an enormous company like Spotify can make a shitload of money and giving musicians little to nothing. And you know, for somebody like Daughters, we don't really have the power where like an AC/DC. I think they like held out for years, right? And then they got a big payoff, and which is just sort of ironic. They don't need that money. Like the ACs didn't need that shit, and but they can do it. We can't. And you know, Spotify, if we were withholding the Daughters catalog from Spotify, they couldn't give a shit. So like I said, you know, it's just we want people to find us and hear us so that they come see us play. That's how we make all of our revenue, is touring. And I think right now people are really frustrated because we can't tour, can't make any money that way. And you know, it's scary. But again, streaming, streaming is like it's like having access to a friend's mixtape like over and over, like constantly, right? I mean, you should listen to this, you should listen to this. I burned this CD for you or some shit, you know, like that's, people don't do it anymore. Like everyone gets a stream, and it's cut out the middleman, and that's, you know, that's just the way it is, you know. So there's good and bad, and we gotta just kind of roll with it. I don't think you know, certainly I can't do it. I mean, if we pulled our catalog from Spotify, like I said, they wouldn't care. What can you do?
I think the way that the music industry treats artists, I wouldn't say it's necessarily unfair, but unbalanced. Because like you mentioned, AC/DC and like a Paul McCartney or like a guy like that has enough money to like, if he had 100 children, he would be able to pay for 100 children, any of those guys. Yeah. And I don't think it's like unfair, but I think that it's unbalanced because the little guys will never have like that level of comfort or anything near it. And I was thinking that COVID, the way that it's happening, could be a kind of like great equalizer. Because for the movie industry, it's already kind of going to be like that. Because the movie theaters that show nothing but Avengers, Marvel movies, like they have 4 rooms, multiplex, and the 4 rooms are playing the Avengers when it comes out. Those are all going to shut down. It's all going to go to streaming. And I don't know if the music industry, how the venues are going to handle that, but I kind of wish that the big festivals would hurt a little from this, more than the small venues, but I don't know if that's going to happen in the end or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we played a lot of festivals in 2019, like bigger festivals. They pay pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy them. Like, you know, I mean, we went to I think it was 2019. We were in Sao Paulo,
Yeah,
and attached that with we played a festival in Santiago, Chile.
yeah,
So you know, the fest brought us out there. You know, what we got paid is what financed us to fly like 8 people to down there and just like do our shit and then
mm-hmm.
like fly to Brazil and then fly home. So um I don't mind the festival circuit or whatever. I think that there's plenty of options, and I've never gone to a show and felt like, oh, the attendance is hurting, because you got to you put a lot of faith in your booking agent to to book a routing that works around that stuff. I mean, there are workarounds. It's like anything else. It's there's so much shit to contest with it, whether it's like festivals or like inclement weather, like a snowstorm, or trying to drive through like Colorado and it's fucking snowing. Like that's you just got to deal. You got to take shit as it comes and work with it. And um, I think if people care about music or the band in particular that's playing, they'll go see them, whether it's raining or whether it's Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't think. I think people are either gonna embrace staying home, like even once they're allowed to go out, and because I think people can adapt to just about anything, or we'll go right back to the way it was, like this shit never happened, and we'll see. I wouldn't attempt to prophesize or something, but it'll be one. It's going to be something. I honestly, I guess I think things will go back to normal, but I hope so. Anyway, I miss playing. So.
I mean, I enjoy festivals as much as the next guy, and I enjoy small concerts too. Like one of the last concerts that I saw was Dollars, actually, because right after that I have to travel a long way any concert that I go to because I live far from São Paulo.
Yeah.
And then a while after that, I saw King Crimson and the Rock on Tours, and that was the end of it. I haven't seen any concerts since. It's been over a year now. It's crazy that this is the longest period I've ever been without a concert.
Yeah.
I barely remember anymore what it is to go to a concert. But anyway, I hope this is not overkill, like music geek overkill, but
no, it doesn't bother me.
Anyway.
Well, they're great records.
Yeah.
And then our record too, whatever.
Anyway, the plans that you had for this year for touring, I remember that there were scheduled some dates that you were going to do with Lingua Ignota that obviously never happened. What was the plan for that? Were you going to do your own songs or cover songs, or what was that going to be like?
We were doing a festival in I can't remember the name of it in Europe. I'm such an asshole for not being able to remember what the hell the name of the festival is.
I have no idea either.
Shit. It was in the Netherlands, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah. You'll have to edit this out where I sound like a complete asshole.
Yeah, don't worry.
But we had it was, I was doing a solo set there, just my work, and then we were going to do a collaborative covers set on a different night, and but I have a record that'll be out next year, and so it was just a lot of it was gonna be my own stuff.
Roadburn,
there it is. Yeah,
Roadburn, all right.
Yeah, Roadburn.
And like the cover songs, did you have a list already, or
we were it's funny because we were getting very close to it and we still didn't have everything sorted out. We had a couple songs we had talked about doing, and but we didn't have like anything really like fleshed out. It was it was an idea we just hadn't solidified anything, and ultimately we never needed to because shit started getting like it was a couple months out from Roadburn. What's that?
Was Wicked Game one of those?
It wasn't. No. No, that was that I wasn't even really involved in that. I think and then Kristen asked if I wanted to sing on a couple, like a if I wanted to do something on it. She sent it to me, and I recorded it into my telephone in like in the basement, like just
Wow.
sang into the phone, and yeah, so very like kind of DIY stuff. And but no, that wasn't part of it. We had a few songs we wanted to do, and but we never got to put a set list together, or even really work on anything because it was like it was a few months out, and then it was like it was Roadburn was saying they were gonna it was gonna happen, and I think everyone kind of knew that this is wishful thinking maybe, and they tried their best. I mean, everybody at Roadburn's really great. I mean, there are a lot of great people there running that festival when Daughters played. I had such a great time there, and everyone is wonderful, and Walter's wonderful, and he runs a festival, or is the figurehead, and everybody there's great. I love it. I'm like I'm hoping to get back there and play um, when everything's happening again. Yeah, that'd be great. So, but yeah, we Daughters had we were playing Oblivion in Austin. We were going to Australia for some shows, and just like everything just and I was going to do solo stuff in all those places, so I'm very disappointed and bummed out it didn't happen.
Speaking of solo stuff, what's the status on the solo LP at the moment?
It's done. There's a backlog at the like mastering studio, so it won't be mastered until mid-January. It was honestly, it was done in the fall, I think, and there were a couple songs I felt like needed some work, and that's like sort of the problem with sitting on a record for that long. We started recording in March, and then I went back in April to finish, and then sat on the record through the summer, and the more I listened to it, the more I wanted to change this and change that, and luckily for me that the I was able to we're able to push the date without it being a big deal. So when I told Sergeant House I wanted to go back and re-record a couple of things that there, there's plenty of time. So we'll see about I think it's done now, and we'll get it mastered in I think January sometime, and then it'll be out 2021 summer-ish, I believe.
Are you the only songwriter on that, or are there any like partnerships?
So Seth Manchester kind of did the production work, producer type stuff. I don't know how to use that term, and it's so weird to me. But he's just done all the or he did "You Won't Get What You Want" and the self-titled Daughters record, and but so Kristen Lingrignota played on the record, and John from Daughters also played, and Evan Patterson, whose project is J Jail. I went in with like 20 something demos, and then I just decided that I didn't want to work with the demos. Like one demo I think made it on there. It was like but the rest of it I wanted to see what everybody could come up with, or just wanted to really have an environment where everybody was like, no idea was too stupid, and everybody could contribute something if they had an idea, to like just kind of go into the room and put something down. And some of it was, John would go in and play the drums for 10 minutes, and then Seth and I would sit down and we would figure out what worked, like what I liked, and then we'd sort things out from there. But and then sometimes Seth would say like, oh, this needs some piano here, and then Seth would just tell Kristen, do like this type of thing, and she would go in and just like put it together herself. And same with Evan. We should have some like sparse guitar atmospheric stuff, and Evan would just go in the room and like do something. So it was it was collaborative, and it was a lot of fun. There was no structure really. Daughters is like it's very structured, and everything is very deliberate, and I wanted to do the opposite of that and just have everyone in the room, and if anyone felt like they just wanted to do something that was, I mean, at one point John had this, he wanted to play this weird like wooden xylophone thing. We were playing it and jamming on that for a couple of minutes. It's like this does not work. This is not good. But and we were like, all right, well, let's move on, try something else. So it was great. I had a lot of fun, and I don't normally have fun in the studio. I think that it can be tedious and boring and stressful, and I didn't want to have that kind of experience with this record. So, and I hope everyone had a really good time. I mean, they seem to. So, and I'm happy with how it came out. You know, it's cool. We've got some extra songs. I'm not really sure what to do with them, and you know, I'm very pleased.
Mm-hmm. And so the song that came out, the one song, is that indicative of the rest, or is it like all far apart?
So we put up that song, and I felt it was like it was the one that didn't fit on the record. It seemed it kind of served to me artistically as like a bridge track, where I think like it was like a little bit of the record I was doing or just done with everybody, and then it was a little bit, it had like kind of a Daughter's feel, and I thought that just kind of putting that out for now would probably be confusing to people, and I'm always happy to confuse the audience. So but no, I mean, if everyone's expecting to hear that song 10 times, and that's not what's going to happen. So sorry.
All right. Well, I'm definitely curious to hear what it's like, because I had no idea what to expect, and the song was definitely not what I thought it would be. I was almost afraid that it would be like one of those Mike Patton solo records. I don't know if you've heard that, but that it's like just noise basically.
Right. No, it's I love those Patton solo records of him like recording himself in various hotel rooms over a year. Like, I like that. I think that stuff's great. I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't want to like put it on in a car and like go on a Sunday cruise drive around, you know, fucking. But no, I mean, there's a lot of experimental stuff. I did I was kind of like putting like tying a gutter. I went to Home Depot, like kind of like I bought various bits of tools, and so there's like saws and metal and hammers, chains, and yeah, all kinds of shit like that. So you know, I'm not like a guitar player. I'm not a very good drummer. So, you know, music for me is like, what kind of sound can I make, and how interesting is that? You know, I recorded some clogged air vents, and you know, birds stuck in an air vent and things like that. So like, there's a lot of weird sounds like all throughout the record, and you know, I wanted to have kind of like an Enter Neubauten vibe, where kind of like, what can I create out of this found or lost sound, and do something with it. Yeah, that was my intent. Those are my intentions.
My next question was going to be, what's up with the chains, but I guess you already answered that.
Yeah, it's my instrument of choice or something. I don't know. I have this chain, and I used it for a bunch of things. So unconventional, I guess.
I'm a pretty big fan of Nine Inch Nails, and you know that Trent makes a lot of soundtracks nowadays.
Yeah.
And then somebody made like a really good quiz that was Trent Reznor's soundtrack or Home Appliance. They just played like a 3-second clip, and you had to guess whether it was a soundtrack or like a vacuum cleaner or whatever. And I got most of them wrong, because it kind of ruined the soundtracks for me, because I was a big fan of those soundtracks, and then I was like, shit, this is like a washing machine. Holy crap. Yeah. But you know, going back, I still think he's brilliant, and I haven't seen there's a new Netflix movie about the writing of Citizen Kane that he scored. I haven't seen that yet. I heard it's pretty good. It's called Mank.
All right.
With Gary Oldman in the main title, the main role.
Right.
Anyway, so recording stuff. Are you recording with daughters at the moment, or writing, or what's that like?
We're writing. We're you know, we were hoping to have a record ready and to record this year, but you know, a lot happened in everyone's like personal lives and COVID, and I think it sort of kind of dashed any like artistic hopes some people had, and you know, and it's tough. You know, we all live in different places, so it requires a lot of traveling for us to get together and to play. So there's just a lot of uncertainty and frustration. I think, you know, it's a lot of things. I think the state of the world is a bit overwhelming. So it hasn't made for a very like creative place as far as like daughters. I think like obviously this would be very creative if we were like if we sound like the dead Kennedys or something. You know, we'd have plenty to write about, but that's just it's not how it's working for us. Um, you know, that's just how it goes. You know, it's unfortunate, and but again, like I wouldn't want to put out a record right now anyway. Like you can't play, you can't really promote it, can't really do anything with it. And I think a lot of people aren't really ready for records this year. You know, I think everyone is a lot of it short attention spans, and people want like comfort sounds and things they're familiar with, as opposed to trying to like get into a new record. And I don't know, it's tough. It's a very tough landscape.
Mm-hmm. Video games are pretty big right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, look, I play this stupid Simpsons game on my phone. Like I play like crazy this year. Like if I play it constantly, it's just like I don't know what else to do with myself. So
those games are cancerous. Those games, like they consume you. Like I
yeah, of
used to
course.
play some of those too, and I just stopped because I was going nowhere when I noticed. I like things with a storyline usually.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good distraction. I know, I played a lot of video games as a kid, and video games are certainly a lot different now. I enjoy video games now. I've tried. I had shoulder surgery several years ago, and
Oh,
I bought a Xbox so I could play. I'm like, well, I'm going to be stuck. I can't really do anything for a bit. I'm going to be able to use my arm, so I can kind of just like, hold a joystick or whatever, like a controller. And I bought it, and everything was like it was an hour just to get like from the beginning to start playing the game. Everything, you can't just sit down and play a game for half an hour anymore. So yeah, video games right now don't appeal to me. But this stupid phone game is like I go on, I touch the screen a bunch of times and I close it out, and then I go back to a couple hours later. It's not, you know, but it's just a nice distraction, you know. It's I don't know.
yeah. But yeah, I was wondering. I think nobody should expect the daughter's record so soon because like you really take your time, right? You have nothing like hurrying you or like a deadline or whatever, right?
I mean, we don't have a deadline, but we were hoping to not do the typical like every 5 years or
Mhm.
4 years or whatever put out a record. We were kind of hoping to, you know, we were hoping to have something like ready for 2021. And right now it's like doesn't seem realistic, or maybe late next year. I don't know, but we were trying to get like we were gonna really get to it this year and work on it and write it and have it recorded. Like we were hoping to be recording right now, you know, or would have or to have been done at this point and ready to go next year. But we don't. We got some demos, we got some songs we're passing back and forth and like talking about, and not enough. You know, it's a little disappointing, a little frustrating, but you know that's how it is. It's just the current state of things, and we gotta roll with that.
And do you get together and get like, okay, this is the direction we're going this time? Or do you talk about the process, or do you just do it?
We do. I mean, there'll be some discussions about like what you know what vibe we're looking for or what we should build on, and that's kind of been a lot of the conversation right now. We have a group call that we do, a couple of us, myself and John and Nick, every week or two. We'll just kind of talk about how we're feeling and the state of things and of the recording and the songs and where we'd like to focus our attention. I think Nick will have some some demos. We share Dropbox, and we'll listen to songs in the Dropbox and talk about them. So you know, there's some discussion, but there's also, we want to give each other space to just kind of put something together that could be some early demo that doesn't sound very good or whatever. Someone be like, well, it just needs this, or, you know, we want to give each other like enough space to kind of create something possibly grand that we can either trim or expand on. And you know, we don't want to like extinguish anyone's flame. So let's try to work with the material as it comes out. Some stuff doesn't work. I mean, we demoed a few things, and afterwards we thought, well, this, you know, these aren't really working. There's some good parts, but you know, it's hard when you don't live together. It's not like going to practice every day. You hash something out for, you know, 5 or 6 nights, and then if it doesn't work at the end, you're like, well, you know, we'll see tomorrow. You know, it's much harder for us. But, I mean, I mean just for us, but for anyone kind of like operating on this, in this remote platform where you're trying to work and you don't see everybody every day. It's easy to get distracted and kind of forget that we're supposed to be working or whatever, you know.
I'm a teacher, and like teaching from a distance has been hugely impacted. But I almost feel like we're now used to it, and now the way that they're trying to return to have classes at the school is not gonna work so well, because like having masks and distancing, you know, it's almost a worse environment than the online environment, which is crazy. With all the distancing, school was not meant to be like that. It doesn't work the same way.
It's a tense environment, you know. It's uncomfortable. It's like people they get in there and they're nervous, most likely. You know, my oldest son was doing some remote learning here at the house for like 2 weeks, and he just like couldn't focus. I mean, he's 6. He's like can't focus, getting bored. It's like, you know, he's like rolling around in his seat, sitting on the floor. It's like, buddy, you gotta I mean, it's tough, and at that age, I think the kids really need each other to like, if all the kids are focused, or, you know, that they can all kind of do it together, and you kind of create this like a collective of consciousness or something. But and that's the vibe. But the remote learning student for the kids is hard. I mean, I think at this point, if I was in college or taking courses somewhere, I would much rather be sitting at home doing it and kind of operating in my own world. And so
some kids really thrive in this environment. Like we're surprised like to see kids doing better this way than they were at the school. It's a minority, but it happens.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, of course, it's not going to be. There's no like. It's not going to be uniform, right? Some it works for some people. It's not going to work for others, and you know, some people might not only work for them, but they'll thrive there. Yeah.
Whenever you create art, be it like poetry or songs or whatever, do you consider whether or not it's treading new ground, or is that something that comes through your mind, like, oh, this has been done, I'm going to scrap it? Or
not exactly. I think like when I think of my first collection, my first book, I was like writing poetry because I thought that's how poetry should be. You know, it should be structured in this way. And in hindsight, I mean, I look back at the book and I hate it. So, you know, the stuff I'm getting, the things I've had published this past like couple of years, I'm like really happy with it and proud of it, because you know, I had to figure out like, how do I write, and who am I as a writer, and that type of thing, which really just happened. And it was easy to get there just because I had to just kind of let go of like preconceived notions of what poetry is or writing. But you know, I don't think it's helpful to say like, how different am I? You know, how you know, you can there's only so many chords you can play on a guitar, right? So I mean, drum beats are recycled, and I think like the end product is what's important, and like what we come out with, and if it's enjoyable for the listener, if people can relate to it, and you know, it's always interesting when someone can do something new. I mean, I read House of Leaves by Daniel Lewski, and it was incredible. And you had to move the book. It was so interactive, and but do I want to do that with every book I read? No, certainly not. So I'm perfectly happy with starting at page one and getting all the way to the end, and then like what I get from the story. So like if you're a good songwriter, if you're a good storyteller, the really the stupid expression that the proof is in the pudding. Like if it's good, it's good. It's really that simple for me. I try not to think like, are we doing something new, or are we gonna fuck anybody? Are we gonna blow any minds with this shit? It's sort of, I don't know, just like write something we're happy with, and whatever it does, it does. I mean, because the reception we got to You Won't Get What You Want, we didn't think we were writing the reception we got is not we didn't expect that at all. That just blew us away. So I think, and if we were trying to do that, we would have failed. We just made the record we wanted to make that we were happy with, and we have no control over opinions or critics or reception. And we just hope for the best, put out our shit, and hopefully people care enough so that we can play and pay the rent, keep the lights on.
I'm hugely, like, I was hugely satisfied listening to the last record, because it, I wouldn't say that it's like breaking new ground necessarily, but it does sound like nothing else that is coming out at the moment. And like rock music is my favorite. And like there's no denying that. I like other stuff, but rock music is the one that I gravitate towards. But like it's hard for me to quite explain why something like this is so good, and why something like Greta Van Fleet, for example, is so obnoxious. Like makes people want to puke, and like people are like, but it's still rock music. I'm like, but like they're it's not coming from a pure place. It seems like it's coming from like, oh, I saw this video on YouTube of Led Zeppelin, like in low quality, and I'm gonna do the same. I don't know if that makes sense. Or
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, it lacks authenticity or sincerity. It's sort of like recycling kind of 70s classic rock tropes and trying to or not even trying to modernize it, but just sort of like take this and put it, take it from way back here and bring it here and pretend that it's still, 1972 or something. And I don't know. I mean, people seem to like them. They seem to be a successful band, so good for them. I wouldn't tell anyone how to do anything or what people should enjoy. But I wouldn't hear, if I wouldn't hear that like a record like. So I'm trying not to be an asshole here.
no,
I wouldn't hear that record and say,
if you say something stupid, I'll cut it out. Don't worry.
No, I mean, I don't look at it. I don't hear a record like that and think like that it's a piece of art or something, or that it's going to inspire me on a grand scale of like self-discovery development. But it's rock, it's pop, it's just, you can put it on and it comes on the radio and it's good enough and it fills the silence. But I'm not interested in that. That's very boring to me.
Even a band like Nirvana, for example, they were doing nothing new at the time. Like nothing that they did was actually new. But you listen to it. I don't know if you have the same reaction, but I listened to it today, and like it still like grabs you by the gut. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah, and that's it says a lot about like it doesn't have to be artsy, artistic to be to really resonate with a listener. That it can just be honest. And maybe that's what something like you look at Greta Van Fleet and think it lacks honesty. And like I said, it's good. It fills the silence, but it doesn't. You're not going to really get anything from the listener, have an experience. And I talk about that a lot. Like I want to have an experience when I'm listening to something and to connect with it. That's how I felt about that's what really fucked me up about like, Kristen's record, like Caligula. It was just like listening to it was like having an experience. It wasn't just like it played, and that's, and I'm a big Scott Walker fan, and it's his later catalog, it's just like, but it's like, it's an experience you have. You don't just like put it on and go into a different room or something, so where you can say that about a lot of Walker Brothers work, like, that's and sometimes you just want to put some shit on and just like have it on and not really care. And like I'll listen to like, like for example, like Iggy, it's like, Lust for Life is an amazing album. Like Yeah, like that. Or like I love Instinct. I think that's a great record and shit. But like I could just put on Brick by Brick or something, just like kind of like who gives a shit, you know. But like if I really want to like sit and listen to his like work, like yeah, Lust for Life or The Idiot or something, and just like really get something to it and have an experience as opposed to just listening.
I guess it's like the difference between like a bag of Doritos and a full course meal. Like you can eat either of them, and your stomach's going to be full, but one is going to nurture you and the other is not.
Yeah,
I guess it's
and
just,
I mean it both work, right? I mean it'll get you to the next day, so that's
yeah, yeah.
good enough. But you know they're just different listening experiences, and I mean, and both are great. Both are fun. You know, it all works. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. But it's also like, I mean, there are plenty of bands who are they sell lots of records, and that's just, it's shit I hate. Like I hate it. But like I've got who am I to say anything? Like people have preferences and people like things, and I have there's shit I like that nobody wants to hear, and I used to work at a record shop, and I remember I put on like I was playing a Swans record. This was in like 2004 or something, or whatever it was, and like maybe soundtracks for the blind or something. And a customer, you know, what is this? And I was Swans, and he said, I don't get it. And I was like, this it's not a math problem. There's nothing to get. You like it or you don't like it, and that's it's it's fine. Like there's shit I like that you just don't like, and there's stuff I think is great. It's and others don't think that, and what you know, what are you gonna do, man? That kind of shit is just
I
I
guess
don't know.
having some context helps. Like sometimes to like to have an angle to approach something. Like I remember when I first tried listening to hip hop, I had no idea where to even like get to, and then I started listening to like Kendrick Lamar and a band that people ask you all the time if you are a fan, Death Grips, which I know you're not.
Right.
Like it took me years to actually find the right angle. And with Christian's record, Caligula, it was the same thing. It was just like a hip hop record for me. The first time I heard it, I couldn't get through it. And then as I started seeing more about her and reading more about the process and seeing her pictures, and then I tried again and again, and then finally now I know like holy shit, it's an amazing record. And I can't put it on just any time. It has to be a specific mood for it.
Yeah.
But now I get the angle. And Swans, you mentioned Soundtracks for the Blind is a record that I have tried to go to a few times, and it hasn't really like clicked for me. While their later catalog, like the trilogy they did, like the Seer and To Be Kind, like that clicks instantly for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not, but not every listener is like has an analytical mind where they need to, you know, some people. I mean, I just think that like anyone, like my sisters or something, they don't give a shit about music. They just like that stuff. It's just it's on. It's like they put the radio on or whatever, the top selling shit on iTunes or something. You know, they like that type of stuff. Like that's what they'll take. So, um, you know, there's a buddy of mine works one of the programs I work, like AA, and you know, we didn't know each other. We met like through the program, and he was saying like, oh, yeah, I heard your music. It's very interesting. Like, yeah, man, it's not like you're not into it, and that's totally okay. I mean, you want to listen to, you know, the Grateful Dead or some shit, and like that's cool. So, you know, it's just like expectation that what we measure success, I suppose, is as like you have to be this. If you're playing pop music, you have to be like Taylor Swift or Beyonce or something, and like and anything that isn't that or is trying to do something else like isn't good or anything. I mean, that's all bullshit. You know, it's just these are just opinions. You know, there was a point where you turn on the radio and it sounded different than it does today. You know, what it sounded like 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's just like a totally different experience. So, tastes change and the grand, the overwhelming, the masses, sort of decide what is pop culture or pop music or, and that all comes and goes. So, and like yourself or myself, like just a different kind of listener that is more interested, as we said, like having an experience with a record than just like whatever works, whatever's like this cookie cutter, fill the void type of shit. But I mean, different types of listening and different, and no one's right, no one's wrong. It's just a different approach. As long as we're all getting something out of it, it's fine with me.
Same time, like the focus we put into music is like the same focus that somebody else is going to put into their work or into reading a book or writing or like any other kind of thing that interests them the most. That's why I try as hard as possible not to judge when somebody says like, oh, this music you're listening to is garbage. Like I get that there's something else that will pique their interest more. It's hard to judge. I have kind of a loaded question here. Whose reaction to your music matters the most? Like among the people that you know, whose reaction is going to be the one that kind of gets to you if they say something really positive or really negative?
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to. I try not to put too much into other people's reactions to stuff, because it can screw your head up if you're if I needed a particular type of reaction from somebody and I didn't get that, it'll ruin my day. So I've got like that kind of that mindset where I need something, I don't get it, and it's gonna like fuck me up. So I try to not approach sharing my work with people in that way, because it's kind of funny. Dave said this. I sent a song that I had done over to Nick and John to listen to that I did. We were talking about working on something in this type of way, and I said, well, I just did something similar myself, and I sent it over, and neither of them commented on the track. And I got like really pissed, and I felt like shit, and I had to just like let that go and move on from it. Because like if I'm worried, if I need a particular type of reaction from somebody and I don't get it, it's gonna stick with me. It's gonna ruin my day or my week. So I want to be happy with whatever we're doing, whether it's as a band or myself, to just hope that I'm okay and hope I'm happy, and because I got no control over what anybody else wants or is doing. So it's a slippery slope. You can start to like ask questions about things that don't need to have questions asked. I'm happy with it. This person didn't like it. Well, what do I need to change to make them like it? I mean, I can change something and then I won't like it anymore. So what am I doing? Why am I doing this if the outcome is something I'm not pleased with, but others enjoy? Well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sing this song. I don't want to play this song. I don't want my name attached to this thing I don't feel good about.
But your reaction is number one always.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I think if you're doing it for anyone else, then you're probably in
Great Van Fleet.
That's terrible.
They're making music for their dads and their uncles probably.
But maybe they love it. I don't know. I mean, I really like Led Zeppelin, so I don't know if I was in a, if I played guitar and could play like rock guitar, I'd just be in like the Helicopters or something. I'd be in a band like that where like just like fucking wanking and having a good time, and just like I love that shit. So I'm not going to knock anybody really. I think we've commented on them a couple of times. I think it's funny, but I honestly, I wouldn't even know. I don't know them. I don't know what they sound like. I know that they have like a Led Zeppelin vibe. I wouldn't.
I'm just being mean.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're fucking around, and that's totally.
They're competent musicians. Like I have heard their stuff because I'm not gonna say anything about them unless I listen to them. And then I went through the trouble of listening to, as I do with anything that I want to talk about, and then I listen to it, and I'm like, this is perfectly competent. And what fucks up my head is I think, what if this record came out in 1969? Would I judge it the same way or not?
Yeah.
That's what fucks me up. And like, I own a Black Crowes record that I absolutely love called Amar.
I love the Black Crowes.
Yeah. And like,
I love them. I think they're great.
Is it the internet that's making me judge? Like, that fucks me up.
I think that we're just like listening differently than we would have, or you know what? I don't think we are. I think like there's so much access there, and there's so much people just trying to put shit out, and it's such an industry, and there's money to be made in this promotion that it kind of forces a listener to turn into a consumer and like find what and treat art as a product and like what's the best product for me, what speaks to me. And no, I find it funny when people are like they dress a particular way and they're like, yeah, I only listen to like this punk band, and you're like, yeah, I can tell because that's how you fucking look, like you dress like that's all you're into. And I just think that's really lazy, and this sort of identity of like this culture identity wrapped up in like music. I mean, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music, and if I'm like I'm gonna dress the same whether I'm going to see like you know Oxbow play or to see like I don't know King Crimson or fucking whatever, you know. Like it's all like it just I don't need to like base. I'm just not looking for an identity here, and I don't wish to suddenly hear a band like Metallica puts out a record that I hate, and now I'm gonna have to have this like, fucking identity crisis, and then be angry at like Lars Ulrich because it didn't make it. Like it's so stupid, you know. It's like I just want to like music, and if I like it, I do, and if I don't, I don't, and that's okay. And then I'm not. No one owes me anything. Nobody owes me anything at all, especially with like taking all the way back to Spotify. Like I'm not paying for a lot of music I'm listening to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm make whatever the fuck you want to make. And I remember like years ago when that band The Darkness came out,
Oh yeah.
and everyone was like, these guys are like sound like Queen. This guy's an amazing. And then I was just like,
Yeah.
Queen's kind of like a fucking like extraordinary band. Like let's not. And then like they did a record. Yeah, but they like did a record, they did the follow-up, no one really cared, and now they're like doing whatever they're doing. And like, you know, and that's not the problem with The Darkness. It's a problem with like the consumerism of music and art as music and art as something to be like chewed up and digested and shat out at the afterwards, and then to move on to the next meal. You know, the Strokes were going to save rock and roll. It's like rock and roll doesn't need saving, and it's not. The Strokes are into like they're in like pop songs, and like good for them. Like it's you know people can get angry at some band because like people would call the first Daughters record like grind. We were a grindcore band or some shit. We're like we're not a fucking grindcore, and the people are like mad at us because we aren't a grindcore band. And people are calling us like this is not on us. Like we just made a record and you all want to call it this, you want to call it that, like you want to say it's not this. It's like don't it's not. We're just some guys that making a record trying to go play some shows. So that's like the discussion is had by others. Like people will say, what's Daughters now? It's Daughters a noise rock band. It's Daughters like we made a record, we want to play the record. You like noise rock, you're a big fan of the Cows or something, like but you don't like us, like who gives a shit? Like, just, like who cares?
For what it's worth, the crowd at the Daughters gig that I went to was one of the most diverse and nicest that I've seen. And I can say the same thing for like New Roses. When I saw New Roses, they were like just a really respectful, awesome. And like even System of a Down, they were amazing. But at the same time, when I went to like Slipknot or Metallica, they were the biggest assholes. The people
Yeah.
around me. I don't know if it was just my experience or not, but I don't know. There's something that like when the band has that little extra like intellectual, not to say intellectual, I know it's a shitty word, but like when it goes that extra step, it kind of seems to attract a different kind of listener. Like Nine Inch Nails, the same thing. Like people are just nicer over Radiohead, whenever, you know.
I think so. I don't think that's a dirty word to say like intellectual to like the intellectual music. There's more thought put into what we're doing than say to just like write like verse, bridge, chorus, verse, chorus, and then end it there. Like, you know, if it takes effort, I think there's more people. Anyone willing to give the effort to listening are gonna. That's like a diverse crowd of people who we're gonna give it that kind of time. And that's like that pleases me greatly that we can appeal to a lot of different people, and I think that makes me happy. And like I would hate to just have a bunch of the same people. And like the early aughts, it was sort of like that, you know, when we'd go on tour with the Blood Brothers, and it was like everybody in the crowd looked like each other, and we the bands all looked like each other. You know, it was just sort of, I mean, I love the Blood Brothers stuff, but it's like, I think the more we've grown, that the audience has grown, and as individuals, and not necessarily like in size. I don't mean in size. I just mean like as people. And again, access to music is like, you don't have to just go to like the one record store and you shop in the same section, like the same bin to get all your stuff. It's like, now that music is so accessible that anybody can hear anything, and all so much different music, different forms of music, and what we consider music. Like, I just banged a bunch of like metal sheets with a hammer, and like and I made a record of it. Like, and the fact that people are going to sit down and listen to that is, hopefully, but the fact that anyone's willing to sit down and listen to it is like amazing.
Wait, like, you're just making me more anxious about it now. Like,
All right, my apologies.
I'm really curious about it, and the more that I hear about it, because anyway, I made friends with Jacqueline at the gig. She's an artist that she tags daughters all the time. Jacqueline is a really nice girl, and like, she's one of the most colorful characters that I've ever met. And when I mentioned to her that I was going to interview you, she made a point that I had to ask you about Tough Guys Don't Dance. She said, asking about tough. I don't know what she's even referring to, but what is Tough Guys Don't Dance?
I gotta. It's a Norman Mailer book that I had a lot of trouble getting into, and a lot of trouble reading it. It took me several years to read it, and I'd started it several times. And the line, tough guys don't dance, it appears in the book, and aside from being the title. But it was a story that I think the protagonist, his father, met like this boxing. It's a work of fiction, but he meets this Rocky Marciano type of boxer, and he asks him about a tough guy, like, hey, why don't you dance? I'm going to dance with your wife. Why don't you have a dance? He says, tough guys don't dance. And to me, it was such a stupid statement. Like, tough guys don't dance was so ridiculous to me. And it was just like classic American, like, I'm too much of a man for this. And I thought it was really dumb. So, yeah. And then my struggle with the book, like reading it, starting it several times. I had like kind of a strange experience with the book. So I got the title of it tattooed on me. And also because I like to, if you see me on stage, I'm dancing around like a fool. I'm not a tough guy. So it was just the whole, like, I think it's like the irony of it and all that. And so I got that. It meant a lot of things to me. So
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. She's gonna like to hear this, I'm sure.
Right.
I remember when I went to the gig, I was going to interview you, and then your manager said that I was going to interview Nick, and then he said, actually, you're going to interview John. And then I did interview John. And while I was waiting for John to come out, I saw you, and like, you were wearing like a hoodie, I think, and your hair was still like short here and long in the back.
Okay.
And then I remember seeing you thinking, who's this guy?
Who's this asshole?
It's like, geez, is this a journalist? Is this a roadie? Like he. And then on stage, I saw it, and I said, "Oh shit, that's the guy. That's the guy that I saw." He, like, you look like a tough guy on stage, but off stage, you look like the nicest person. That's an alarm. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
My wife just woke up. She's not happy that she was walking. Anyway, but during John's interview, I did ask him a question that I have to ask you the same, about the number of people telling you how to do your job. Has it increased or decreased since you put out that song?
I don't have a real job, so no. But it's sort of like it's more aimed at like a lot of what we talked about is people who think music should be done a particular way, and people with their own criticisms, or bad journalists, or people like that who don't put in the work, don't know what it's like, and think that it should be done a particular way. I think it's that's what it's. So I guess it's the same. Depends on how many interviews I'm doing or how many shows we're playing. But lately, I haven't heard it in quite a while.
All right. I used to blast that song coming back from work when something shitty happened, and it was just such catharsis. Like, it was perfect. That was my jam when I came back from home. You know, that and the first Mastodon record and Sepultura's Arise. I don't know if you, that is just like washing machine for the brain. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So are you? I don't know if I have the liberty to ask you this, but are you living by yourself or with a partner or family, children?
I have a partner, my girlfriend and I live together. Yeah. We've been out here since I've been living in Pennsylvania for a few years now, and I have kids with my ex, and you know, typical American life. I think. Yeah.
On Kurt Cobain's journal, he says he makes a list of his influences, and he makes a really long list. And just in the middle of everything, he writes like in capital letters, divorces, bunch of bands, and then divorces. Because like I think his parents were divorced, and Chris's parents were divorced too. And it's shitty, you know. I feel bad for you guys. Not that divorces don't happen in Brazil, but I see them more often there than here. And I don't know if it's for. I mean, I wish my parents were divorced, if that means anything. My mom would be better off if she'd gotten divorced 20 years ago, but you know.
Maybe it's like I don't know. I don't know what the religious population is. I know you have that very large Jesus there, yeah.
Yeah, we have the giant Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe it's a.
Is it majorly Catholic up there or not Catholic exactly?
I couldn't tell you the percentage anymore. I mean, we got everybody's. You know what? I don't think that shit even matters at this point. I mean, people are just trying to figure life out.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing their best, and I don't think anyone succeeds in figuring life out. We just live, and then we die. There it is.
Are you willing, like, if you're not, that's totally fine, but are you willing to comment anything on sobriety, or is that a topic that you're not really comfortable with?
I'm okay with it. I can talk about sobriety.
So, like, how long have you been on this journey, I guess, and how is it going?
You know, arguably, depending on which program, you know, I've been doing this my whole life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's only been, you know, the past year I've really been making a lot of the connections where, like, my therapy and my stay in rehab, and you know, everything's trauma related, and I've had a significant amount of trauma growing up as a kid, and you know, conditioned to normalize really abnormal and unhealthy situations, and I think there's a lot of people, but I've never met an addict who didn't have like some significant trauma that they're constantly recreating throughout their life. So it's been and you know, I'll deal with it I'll always deal with it. You know, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life being a sober addict, like always in recovery. It's like I'll live, you know, and that's I gotta like accept that, and just make sure I'm you know, involved and of service to others that need help, and because I need help, and if you know, if I don't do the work, then why should I expect anybody else to, or anyone to help me? So but it's tough. It's, you know, my father was whatever he was, and you know, we do the best we can. I learned that, you know, I have a lot of resentment and anger toward my father and the way I was brought up, and my mother, and well, not quite as much to my mother, but it's centralized around my father. But you know, we all do the best we can with what we got, and my dad did the best he could with what he was given, and he wasn't given much. So it's just a matter of, as addicts, we need to decide like when it all stops, and we don't pass these traits down to the next
Mm-hmm.
the next generation or what have you.
I think it sucks to see the judgment that people have. Like some time ago, a few days ago, Maradona died. Do you know Maradona, the Argentinian soccer player?
I don't.
He was like the Pele of Argentina.
Okay.
Anyway, he had major issues with addiction, and then Brazil has a sort of rivalry with Argentina. And Brazil was the only country that was mocking him upon his death, which really sucks.
Yeah.
And like it's like if there's a person who is diabetic, and the person has diabetes, you're not going to make fun of them because they can't take sugar. And if they take sugar and they die, you're not going to make fun of them. Like they ate something that accidentally has sugar, or they caved it. They caved, for example. Like you're not going to make fun of that person. And like for the person who has addiction, it's not the same, but it's the same. You're not going to judge a person who is in a wheelchair for dying in a way that involves the use of the wheelchair. Like it's sick mindset that people have.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, but honestly, I mean, there are people who want to make plenty of, especially the internet, everyone gets to be so anonymous. So you can be insulted for being in a wheelchair now. That's probably not uncommon. So
you ever been on 4chan?
No.
Don't ever. You will see.
Yeah, I don't.
Every opinion you can imagine, you're gonna see. Like every time Trump says the most idiotic thing, like injecting Lysol, you will see somebody defending him, like with like paragraphs of like, oh, fucking leftists and whatever. Like,
yeah. People
exist like that. If you think an opinion might exist, somebody has that opinion, and that person is on 4chan.
Great. It's not, yeah. I will continue to avoid that for the rest of my life.
Definitely. I have looked out of like morbid curiosity, like the same way you would listen to whatever record you think you're gonna, like the new Kanye that you were listening to, and there was a video of you listening to the new Kanye. Like that's my reaction to 4chan. And holy shit, that song is bad, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. But to end things on a lighter note, can you recommend me some sick records?
Oh man, I don't know if I've heard anything this year that the new Kristen is finishing her record. This new Lingua Ignota record is going to be like the crazy. It's like a masterpiece. It's really extraordinary.
More shit you get anxious about. Thanks.
It's really incredible. I dig there's a new clipping record that I like, or like noise hip hop kind of mix. I dig what they're doing.
I know what it is. I haven't heard the new one. I listened to the last one, but the new one I've heard good things, but I haven't listened to it yet. I do have Spotify open now, and I am saving records.
There you go. Yeah, the new clipping record's real good. I'm not, as I said earlier, I think people this year are looking for a lot of comforts, and I'm not any different. I'm still like want to listen to old Ice-T records and the Scott Walker cat. My Spotify year-end list came back, and it told me all I listened to is like Dave Van Ronk and Scott Walker and and that rapper Stitches.
I don't know Stitches.
He's well, I don't recommend you go and seek him out. He's his face all tattooed. He's insane. And I started listening to him kind of ironically because I thought he was funny. But then I started like kind of getting into it, and I made a playlist of like a dozen Stitches songs that I actually really like. And
this album art.
Yeah, it's like it's normally everything I hate about independent music, like this sort of like emoji covers and shit, like a lot of bad stuff. But like, it's just too crazy. All this shit's about like selling cocaine. It's like it's just like totally ridiculous. And but I love it. I this year's been a lot of like listening to that. Like Korn did a song with Yellow Wolf. They did a cover of like The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I was obsessively listening to it. It was just too ridiculous. And they've done a cover of like Nightmare Before Christmas that I forced Kristen to listen to over and over again for like so long. That and like bad TV, you know, I watch The Bachelor, like we watch The Bachelor and The Bachelor all the time, and like all these, and it's just because it's like it doesn't, it's not asking anything of us. It's not, and it's just kind of fun, and so, but that's it. Like, but in a serious note, like I do like the new Clipping record. My buddies in Bombard got that record came out. I think that was this year. I don't have a concept of time now. I think that came out that last Bombard record.
I saw you in concert last week. That's what my mind is right. Like I saw you just last week. That's why I'm
right. It's still like, yeah, it doesn't time is no longer exists. But yeah, like I said, a lot of just old comfort music and just Scott Walker and Suicide. On loop. Yeah.
Cover music for me right now is Neil Young's "Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere."
All right. Yeah.
That oh my
Great.
God, such great feels coming from that.
I had a day where I was listening to Harvest Moon a lot because that was a record my mother really loved. That Harvest Moon is just like not my favorite Neil Young record, but I was listening to it one day just being nostalgic, and there's some good song. There's some really good songs in there. So
I haven't listened to that in a while because I got the Rolling Stone Top 500 list, which I know is not like any measurement of anything, but if anything, it's a list of albums that I haven't heard, a lot of them, and then I'm just going through them just to find stuff that I haven't heard. And like there was this Neil Young record called "On the Beach," I think, which somehow I never listened to it, and then it's amazing, and a lot of other things that I just came across and like, oh shit, this is a gap in my.
Well, his catalog is great. He's got he has like a rockabilly album that he did that I love that record.
Like
I can't think. Yeah. He's like all dressed up and he kind of looks a little bit like Elvis or Buddy Holly or something. But I can't remember the name, but I really like that record a lot. And he did a couple albums that are like kind of electronic related that are like, I think one's called like Trans Am or something like that. And
weird glasses on the cover.
Yeah, there's that, and like I think it looks like a bunch of neon lights kind of coming, and apparently like he has a son with autism or something. Supposedly the story is, I never really looked at it, and he thought he was, and this was like 30 years ago or something, like 40 years ago, like no one really understood what was going on, and he thought he was communicating with his son, like he was trying this like through the music, that his son was like responding to it. That could be bullshit. Like someone told me about when I had found those albums, and someone was like, "Oh yeah, he wrote that. His son had autism." Like told this whole story that I never followed up to see if any of that was true. But if that's the story, it's pretty interesting.
Sometimes the legend is better than the actual story. Like if you hear the legend, you kind of get attached to it. You don't want to hear the true story of it.
Right. Yeah, but then I don't want to maybe have an interview and recite some total bullshit just to show that I'm totally susceptible to nonsense. I'm like, the internet said this, so obviously that's true.
While translating Kurt's journals, there was this segment that really, I spent maybe more than 2 hours on a single paragraph where he's complaining about the journalist that during the interview, Kurt said, "Punk rock is dead for me." And then he was quoted as saying, "Punk rock is dead to me." And he made a whole page of his journal about that. And like, I kind of get what he's saying, but to translate that into Portuguese is hell. But I understand what you mean about like, you say you don't read translated works, especially poetry, that you don't really like translated poetry, right?
Right.
And I totally get that, because I did the best I could, but I don't know if it's enough. If I'm gonna get the reader to understand the difference, very, very subtle difference, I think, between these words.
I mean, that's subtle, but that's like a big thing, and that's language. And when you're trying to convey a feeling that's, I think, specific to your identity, then that's obviously like a kind of dangerous area to work in. I don't really read translated poetry because I think it's the language is sort of like there's a grace to it or something. There's like something to be said, but I really loosened up. I just did an episode for the podcast, Books of Some Substance, and I read Jean Cocteau's Holy Terrors, which obviously is translated work, and I tend not to do that, but I think I'm kind of like letting go of that to a bit, to an extent, and I think maybe as like a writer, I want, like, I wrote this down. This is what I wrote. It stays like this. But the thing is, if it's translated, I don't know. I mean, if someone wanted to translate my work into French, then yeah, fuck, sure, of course. Like, if you know, we got to do our best to connect in any way we can. Kind of really letting go a little bit on this idea that I won't read anything translated. So I've been dabbling this year.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
I've been dabbling this year,
Oh.
dabbling in
Okay, cool.
translated work. So
when I was a teen, I read Dante's Inferno and
yeah.
obviously translated because I don't speak
I
Italian.
have it sitting right over here, actually.
Oh shit, that's cool. You got the original?
No, it's just a one shitty copy.
Oh, but still, it's badass. You know, it's
Yeah, it's great.
huge influence on me. And I was a major Catholic growing up.
Yeah.
I was like sick almost, and that did influence me, and it put me further into that. But then when I got out of it, now that I'm totally out of all religions, and I can still appreciate it, but in a different way. And I did read Richard Dawkins, like the God Delusion,
Yeah.
and I had an identity crisis because I work in a Catholic school.
All right.
And at the end of it, I realized it's better for my students to have an atheist teacher than to have another Christian teacher.
Right.
It's like I add some diversity. Because if I were like another white Christian heterosexual male teaching them like all the other ones, like what the hell would I be doing there? And like at least they have one atheist teacher, and I think that adds a little something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like really important to, and I guess we could tie it to music. I think like intelligence is like is asking questions that you don't know the answers to, and are comfortable to not get an answer. And I think like religion is sort of like, sure, ask all the questions you want, but we have the answers.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that just seems very, that's sort of the opposite of what I think like intelligence is. It's about discovery and you know, to say that if you listen to the radio, like, so Chris and I were listening to all this like country radio, because we were like, what does the country radio sound like right now? What is it? What, we had no idea.
Like modern country radio?
Yeah, but it's so formulaic. It starts, you know, you get the verse and everyone's singing about the same thing, and the structure is song after song after song after song is exactly the same. And it just seemed like, not to say it's unintelligent, but it was just like you already knew the answer to the question. Like you didn't have to, and so to look at like a, you know, the Last Daughters record, it's sort of like there's no formula on it. You don't know where it's going. And I think like for us, it was sort of like, well, what happens if we do this, and what happens if we add this in, or you know, and I try to do that with my record. It was like, what's it going to sound like if I had a bag of coins? Like, what if we just spin all these coins on the sheet of metal and record this? Like, what's going to happen, and see what we can do with it. So I think like religion is the same as like, you don't need to ask questions. If you're going to ask the questions, here are the answers. And that just seems like, just, I don't want to go to, I want to have a discussion. I would like to have a discussion. I think like a lot of like, especially in American universities or that, they're churning out employees essentially. We're like, come here, memorize the facts and all stuff, and then like go out into the world. But, you know, I think like, you know, true intelligence is just like the ability to ask a question and, you know, get it possibly answered, but to kind of weigh that and to discuss it, and not, and to be able to like change your mind. Like I think a lot of people just like have decided that this is how I think right now. I'm always going to think this way, but I didn't think that way 10 years ago, and 10 years before that, like, you know, so man, I'm open to like, I'll admit I'm wrong. Man, I work multiple programs based on like, I am wrong my whole life, doing things wrong. And at this point I'm like, yeah, man, I'm okay. That's all right. Like that's life. And I'm just trying to get through it. So
I'm super grateful for like in university. I'm not going to say that I had the best facts, but I'm super grateful for the right wing and the left wing and the centrist and the apolitical professors that I had, because all of them, they made me realize who I am. And if I had exclusively left wing or right wing or whatever, that wouldn't have happened. I'm
Yeah.
super grateful for all this, like
Yeah.
even the really stupid professors that I was listening to, them like rolling my eyes constantly. Like, even those I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't matter like who it is. Like every once in a while, it's like someone's has some information you need. You know, you disagree all you want with someone. It's like they can't be. No one's completely wrong on everything. Like there's
Mhm.
something somewhere that we need. And like take what you want and leave the rest. Like, like this works for me, and you know the rest of this is bullshit.
Uh, Even a racist clock is right twice a day.
Maybe, yeah. Because I've never heard that, and I hope I don't hear it again. Part of me didn't want to agree with that at all.
Like I saw that quote from a comic. They were talking about the Thor movie back when the first Thor movie was coming out, and it's all Norse mythology. And basically, there were no black people to the people who started Norse mythology.
Right, right, yeah.
Didn't exist. It's like African mythology or whatever mythology. There was no traveling from continent to continent. And in
Yeah.
Norse mythology, there were no black people. And then some, of course, racist assholes were angry that one of the gods in Thor was black.
Yeah.
And like, well, it's cool that they're doing it. It's cool that there is a black god in Thor, but at the same time, it's not Norse mythology. But at the same time, like, it's a fucking Marvel movie. Who cares?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's fiction to begin with, right? It's
Yeah.
mythology. It's not like the idea that people are so married to this like this needs to be this made up fantasy needs to be this particular. It's just like I mean, we've already like taken the walls down. We're just gonna do whatever we want, and if if you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. So, yeah, I don't understand that line of thinking when people get like pissed off at some movie or some like they don't like the way a story was told because it's actually like this, and it's like it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
None of this is real. And if you never saw this movie, this wouldn't even be an issue for you. You wouldn't even be discussing it. So like, just fucking move on, man. Like,
Do you have you seen the Godfather Part 3?
yeah,
Do you have any feelings about it?
I don't like it, and that's all right.
Do
Like
you know that?
I love like the Friday the 13th series, and there are all kinds of movies in there I think are stupid. The seventh one is awful. The girl with like the telekinesis, and she's like, it's so stupid, but it's just a dumb movie. And if I don't like it, I don't like it, and that's just I gotta like real problems I need to figure out, not like getting all hung up on like how does I don't understand how the Flash can run. He would have to take in 400 million calories a day or something like that type of shit is just like this is not worth the time it takes to talk about it.
The reason I ask about the Godfather Part 3, have you heard that Coppola is actually like not remaking it but re-editing it?
No.
He's gonna re-release it this year. He's gonna call it The Death of Michael Corleone. He's re-editing the whole movie.
All right.
To like make it good. I don't know if he's gonna take his daughter out of it or not. I think that would be the appropriate move, but it's crazy. Like cancel culture and these things, like recontextualizing things. I don't know. Like I don't think it's cool. I don't wanna hear a remix of this record. There are things there are points in it like that I'm not fully 10 out of 10 for me, but I don't want to hear you go back and redo it. I love it the
But
way.
I mean, if we did, we did it, and if you don't like you still have you still like the other end. Like it's all right. It's this. I don't know, man. People take ownership of things and in a way and decide that like what like everything that's created, every piece of music and every film that comes out needs to appeal to them. If it doesn't appeal to them, it's because it's bad or and then that's just seems very self-centered and selfish.
I genuinely believe that the recent remaster of the Beatles' White Album is like the top superior version of all those songs.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago it came out. I think I got it on vinyl because it just sounds better to me. I don't know. People hate that point of view. They're like, no, the original mono is the only version you should listen to. Like,
It's just who cares?
Sounds better to me. Whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've taken up enough of your time, I believe. And I really, really, really appreciate it. You've been amazing.
Yeah, my apologies for being so difficult, but if I wasn't difficult, I don't know what I'd be, you know. So
Exactly. If you weren't difficult, maybe you wouldn't be interesting.
perhaps. Well, whether or not I'm interesting is I'm not sure, but
You have my for whatever my opinion is worth. You're an interesting character, and your music is definitely interesting, and I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to hear more of it.
thank you.
And I wish you success in all your endeavors and all that. And I really thank you for your time and for your music. Like this is like not journalist anymore, but fan. Like it really helped me in difficult times, and I know lots of people that would say the same if they had the opportunity to speak to you, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Enjoy the day.
you too.
Take care of yourself.
Have a great day. Enjoy the day. Stay alive. Don't catch COVID, etc., etc.
It's the plan.
Peace out, man. Thank you. Bye bye.